Hello guys, how you all doing? Welcome back again to my YouTube channel. Some time ago I posted this video as a short video on my channel and I had so many comments asking for the tutorial. So today I'll be sharing with you how I made this beautiful dress. If this is something you might be interested in, you may need to watch this video to the end. And don't forget to subscribe if you are new to this channel. Also like, comment and share. For the upper part of this dress, I'll be using the basic bodice pattern. I've previously posted a video on how to draft the basic bodice pattern. You may want to check it out if you don't know how to. I cut through the waistline because I won't be needing the down part of this pattern. That is from that point where I cut out to the hip line, I won't be needing it. So now I'll be working with the front pattern first, and what I have left here is from the shoulder to the waist. First thing you want to do is to mark where you want the off shoulder to start from. You know, this is an off shoulder dress with a strap. So from the shoulder, I marked 5 inches across the pattern paper. Then I connected the marks with a straight line. When I was done with that, I measured what I had at this point and marked the midpoint. Then I connected from the midpoint to meet the bust point like so. Now to tighten the underbust, I marked my round underbust measurement divided by 4. After that, I checked what was remaining. I had 1.5 inches remaining, so I shared it among the already existing darts. I marked the lesser value, which is ½ inch, towards the center front side. Then I marked 1 inch towards the armhole side. After that, I connected it to meet the dart leg on the waistline like this. Then I also connected from the bust point to the new dart like this. When I was done with the underbust tightening, the next thing I did was to tighten the overbust as well. And to do that, I marked 0.75 inch on the both sides of this line and connected to meet the bust point. To determine the neckline, you have to get your strap to strap measurement divided by 2. That is from one bra strap to the other bra strap. It could be 10, 11, 12, but mine is 10. That is 10 divided by 2 will give me 5. So I placed my tape from the center front like so. What I had was 4 inch. You know, the dart, which is also the overbust tightening, will be cut out, so it's not going to be included in the measurement. So at that point, I had 4 inches. I jumped the dart and continued my measurement on the other side of the dart leg. There, I marked my 5 inch. Before we draw out the neckline, we'll need to close up the overbust dart. And to do that, we'll have to cut open this part first. Pay attention to how I'm closing it up. I matched one side of the dart leg to the other. Then you can use your tape or pin to secure it. The essence of doing all of this before drawing out the neckline is so that after cutting and sewing, one will not be shorter than the other. So I want a sweetheart neckline. I came down by 2 inches and I used my curved ruler to blend it in like this. Now we are going to be replacing the 0.75 inch we took for the overbust tightening. We are going to be replacing it here and on the chest line. I forgot to replace on the chest line, so while drafting yours, make sure to add on the chest line before connecting your new armhole. And make sure that the new armhole is not too deep because we will not be attaching sleeve. We're almost done with the front pattern, and to close up the bust dart, we'll cut open the bust point line and tape it down. Then we'll blend the new armhole to meet the lines. Then when we are done, the next thing is to cut out your pattern. If you have watched to this point and not yet subscribed, please kindly do so, and also don't forget to give me a thumbs up, comment and also share, because all of this will help other people to see this video. Moving over to the back, I already have my back pattern. So what I did next was to measure what was remaining on the shoulder line and get the midpoint. From there, I connected to meet the waist dart. This is not compulsory, but I just want to tighten the back a bit. Just like we did on the front pattern, we'll mark where you want the off shoulder to start from, then connect. On this point, I mark 0.25 on the both sides just to tighten it a bit. Not as much as the overbust tightening on the front, just a bit tightening. Then we go ahead to mark the strap to strap measurements, just the same way we did on the front. I have 5-inch unfold, so I replaced 0.25 also before drawing out the new armhole. I want a round neckline at the back, so I came down by 1 inch and I connected from the armhole to that point like this. So that is it for the back. Next is to cut the pattern out. Now for the back dart, you can either choose to fold it in like this or just cut it out. For me, I chose to cut out. Then I label all of the patterns so I don't get confused. Moving over to the down part of this dress, I first of all marked out my gown length. From the waist, I marked 18 inches. So 18 inches plus 17 inches for the half length will give me 35 inches. So the total length of this gown I'm working with is 35 inches. I also added 1 inch hemming allowance. So from the waist, I marked 9 inch. That 9 inch will serve as the hip line. So I have my waistline, my hip line, and the hem. So on the waistline, I measured my waist circumference divided by 4 and marked. The same thing I did on the hip line. For the hemline, you minus 5 inch from your hip measurement and divide it by 4. Whatever you have, you mark. For instance, my hip is 42. Minus 5 will give me 37. So 37 divided by 4 will give me 9.25. So on the hemline, I marked 9.25. Then I also added 2 inch so 1.5 sewing allowance, and then I connected the marks before cutting it out.
I see the moon, I see the moon, I see the moon. Oh, when you're looking at the sun, you're not a fool, not a fool.
So I'm done cutting it out. I also folded in zip allowance while I was drafting this pattern. So I'm going to use this pattern to cut out both the front and the back of the skirt. Here I'm done cutting out the front and the back of the down part. So the next thing is to determine where you want to fix the other fabric that is in form of a flare. So from the waistline, I marked 6 inches. After this, the next thing you want to do is to get the biggest parts of the down part and mark out your sewing allowance. Mine is 1.5, so I made a mark on the 1.5. From there, I measured what was remaining. I had 10.5, so I divided the 10.5 by 3, so I have 3.5. So on the center front, I divided the 3.5 by 2. I had 1.75. It's on fold. When you open it up, it will be 3.5. After sharing the 3.5, I had 1.75 remaining. So when I close up the sewing allowance, it will still give me the same 3.5. So from there, I draw a straight line to the hemline. You will measure the length of the line and note it somewhere because we will use it to cut out the flare. Then you can now go ahead and cut open the lines. Please note that everything we are doing here is on fold. So here we have 3 lines, which means that when we open it up, we'll have 6 lines for the front and 6 for the back, making it a total of 12 for everything. To cut out the flare part we'll be attaching to this dress, you just have to bring out the material you want to use for it and fold it in a bias form. Then you measure the wideness you want at the hem, that is how full you want it to be at the down part. I think I used about 9.5 or 10. Then you mark the length of that line with notes aside then and add 1 inch to it. After that, you can now go ahead and cut it out. So this is what I have after cutting it out. I'll be using this to cut the rest. So this is what it will look like after fixing it. I'll go offline now to cut the remaining pieces. I will not be adding the flare on the shoulder because my fabric is not enough, but I will show you how to cut it. Get your fabric and fold it into 2 like this, and also fold it again like so. Then you measure your round shoulder divided by 4. Whatever you have, you are going to mark it round from those points that cannot be opened up. You see this edge that you cannot open up, you're going to mark it round like so. Then you connect. So from that point, you measure the length of the flare. I used 4 inch, so I marked 4 inch round like this. So when I was done, I cut it out. You may want to add extra inches to the shoulder so that you can pleat it. That is, if you want the flare to be fuller, you can just pleat it and have a fuller flare. From the center, I made a slant curve this way, then I cut it out. This is what it will look like. The flare did not start immediately at the center front. You can leave about 1/2 inch or 1 away from the center front. I also cut out the straps. Here I've gone ahead to cut out the main fabrics for the upper part. I added 1.5 sewing allowance on the sides, added 1/2 inch for joining the darts, and also 1.5 inch for zipper allowance. I've gone ahead to iron Estée on the main fabrics. I also ironed wording on the bust area. So I picked the center front and 1 part of the side front. I'm going to pin it down, right side facing each other. From the waist to the upper parts, I'm going to pin it down. Then I will sew using 1/2 inch. I'll do the same thing on the other side. After pinning it down, I will sew it with 1/2 inch. So here I'm done sewing it. My fabric was not enough while cutting, so I joined some pieces. I was trying to manage my fabric. So this is what I have after sewing the front. So I'm going to iron and open up the stitches. For the back, I also joined the center back and the side back, right side facing each other. Then I joined using 1/2 inch. After sewing, this is what I have. So I'm going to open press the seam. Then I will also join the lining same way I did to the front. After joining the front and the back, next thing you want to do is to attach the strap before turning it out with lining. You have to sew your strap, turn it inside out and iron it flat. Then you place it where you want it to be like this. Then you bring your lining and match up the seam, right side facing each other. Make sure that the seam on the lining is aligning with the seam on your main fabric. Then you pin it down. You will do the same thing on the other side too. You place it where you want it to be and match it up with your lining. Pin it down. Then you match up the center of the lining to the center of the main fabric, right side facing each other. Then you sew from those points to the other edge. After that, you sew the sides and turn everything inside out, both the front and the back piece. So this is what I have after turning it with the lining. Moving on, it's time to join the flare to the opening. So we have 6 openings here. So we're going to be joining 6 in the front and 6 at the back. You have to pay close attention to this part because it could be a little bit tricky. So you have to make a mark on your main fabric to identify the back and the front. So you pick one of the flare. You know, this is the back. The back is facing me. So you pick one of the flare. This is the down part and this is the upper part. So you pick it this way. Then you you see how I'm holding it? You pick it this way. Then you pick one part of the skirt and place it like this, right side facing each other. You see how I turned it? Now you pick it like this. You can either use your pin and hold it, or you just pick it with your hand and move over to the sewing machine and sew it. I'll explain it again in case you don't get it, but first of all, let me sew this one down.
I see the moon, I see the moon, I see the moon.
When you sew to the end of that one, you stitch and remove it from the machine. This is what it will look like. This is how it will be. Then you will flip it over to the other side. You pick the edge of the flare and the edge of the skirt, right side facing each other. Then you move over to the sewing machine and sew it down. And as you are sewing it, you make sure to smoothen it out, because here is very tricky. You make sure to smoothen it out so you don't sew on the fabrics that you're not supposed to sew on. Then you sew from that edge to the hemline.
I see the moon, I see the moon, I see the moon. Oh, when you're looking at the sun, you're not a fool.
After sewing it, this is how it turns out. This is what it looks like. I'll be explaining again how to attach this flare, so pay close attention. You turn the skirt this way so that the back will be facing you. Make sure that the back is facing you. Then you pick one of the flare. This is the down part and the upper part. Then you open up the skirt this way. You see how I'm holding it? Then you bring the flare and match it up. You see right side is facing each other. Then you can either secure it with a pin, or you move over to the sewing machine and sew it down.
I see the moon, I see the moon, I see the moon. Oh, when you're looking at the sun, you're not a fool, not a fool, not a fool. No, you're not fooling anyone. Oh, but where you gone? Where you gone? Where you gone? Oh, baby, you're the last one.
When you sew to the end, you stitch it and bring it out. Then you flip it to the other side. You pick the edge of the flare and the edge of the skirt. You see how I'm holding it? You're going to sew from that edge all the way to the hem, and as you are sewing, you're going to notice some ruffle, especially at that towards the edge. So you're going to be very careful, use your hand and smoothen it out. That point could be, I don't know how to explain it, could be very, very tricky, but you just have to be careful and smoothing it out.
I see the moon, I see the moon, I see the moon. Oh, when you're looking at the sun, you're not a fool, not a fool, not a fool. No, you're not fooling anyone.
Okay, I'm going to explain it again for the last time before going off camera to do the rest. You would turn the skirt, making sure that the back is facing you. Then you pick one of the flare, identify the down part and the upper part. You pick it this way. You see how I'm holding it? Then on the skirt part, you pick it like this. You turn it over this way. Then you bring the flare and attach it like this. You then go to the sewing machine and sew it down.
I see the moon, I see the moon, I see the moon. Oh, when you're looking at the sun, you're not a fool, not a fool, not a fool. No, you're not fooling anyone. Oh, but where you gone? Where you gone? Where you gone? Oh, baby, you're the West Coast.
When you get to the end, you will stitch it and bring it out. Then you flip it over. You pick the edge of the flare and the edge of the skirt this way, right side facing each other. Then you take it to the sewing machine again and sew it all the way to the hem. I believe that with those explanations you'll be able to practice it, and if you have any question you can ask on the comment section.
I see the moon, I see the moon, I see the moon. Oh, when you're looking at the sun, you're not a fool, not a fool, not a fool. No, you're not fooling anyone. Oh, but where you gone? Where you gone?
So here I'm done fixing all the flares. It's time to join the upper part and the down part. So what we'll do is to get the midpoint of the skirt, that's the down part, and the midpoint of the top, which is the upper part, the half length. Then we'll place the midpoint of those two right side facing each other. Then you use your pin to secure it. After that, you move over to the sewing machine and join it with 1/2 inch. You do the same thing on the back as well. This is it after I was done joining. I also fixed the zipper for the back. So the next thing I'll do is to go and insert my body measurement. On the bust, I divided my bust measurement by 2, check what was remaining and divide it by 2 and shared it on the both sides. The same thing on the waistline. I measured my waistline, divided by 2 and share what was remaining. Then on the hip line, I measured 1.5 inch. Remember, we added 1.5 inch for the sewing allowance. So I marked the 1.5 inch from that point to the hem. I did the same thing on the other side. Then I connected the marks. After connecting the marks, I took it to the sewing machine and sew on those lines. This is what I have after joining. You see on the sides I have 3.5 inch after joining the 1.5 for the sewing allowance. Then you check round the hem of the gown and trim off any excess. So the next thing to do is to fix the strap at the back. You can either multiply the off shoulder by 2. For instance, if what you use for the off shoulder is 6 times by 2 will give you 12. So you measure 12 and fix it at that point, or you wear it and have someone pin it for you where you want it to be. We've come to the end of this tutorial, so if you have any question you can ask, and if you recreate the style you may want to tag me on Facebook or Instagram at Grem Styling. See you in my next video. Bye.